The night the first hiker vanished was the night Theo Moran stopped sleeping. A frantic woman had burst into the ranger station just before closing, hiking boots muddy, eyes silver-doppered wide. Her partner had stepped off to check a side spur after they glimpsed a narrow break in the rhododendron, she said, and never returned. The spur, she swore, was dead center on the main ridge trail, impossible to miss. Yet when Theo hiked out under moonlight with 2 deputies and a string of glow sticks, nothing but unbroken laurel faced them. No prints, no trampled stems, no deviation at all. The woman spent the patrol scratching her own map in the dirt, insisting, "It peeled rightward, like the trail wanted us." By dawn, search teams combed every crevice of the Smoky Quartz Preserve. The missing hiker became the first red dot on Theo's corkboard. 2 weeks later, a father and son disappeared under nearly identical circumstances. A month after that, 3 college kids. Each time same stretch of ridge, same claim of a thin, beckoning path that no ranger, surveyor, or satellite photo could confirm existed. Theo's supervisors postponed opening new campgrounds, and local forums lit up with folklore. Rangers joked about the ghost detour, but Theo felt something tug deeper than dread. Recognition. In a dusty closet back at the station, he dragged out a milk crate of childhood sketchbooks his mother had mailed for nostalgia when he took the job. During restless evenings, he leafed through them, dog-eared by spills and smudges from his 8-year-old crayons. And there it was, again and again, a looping charcoal line curling away from a main route, leading to a featureless oval labeled only home. His younger self had drawn national park scenes the way other kids drew superheroes, but this spur recurred in every landscape, always at the same bend, always marked in darker graphite than anything around it. The sketches rattled Theo's bones. He'd grown up 3 states away, never visited Smoky Quartz until Ranger Academy, yet the ridge's topography matched. He studied elevation shading, compared it to the latest GIS overlays. The spur, if it existed, would slip north along a hollow no drone could see under the canopy. But how had a 3rd grader known? And why was there an implied question in the word home? For the next disappearance, Theo positioned himself along the ridge in plain clothes, pretending to photograph lichens. Afternoon humidity settled like wet cotton. A pair of retirees ambled past, then a solo through hiker, then a young woman with a charcoal notebook. An echo of childhood hymn. The forest chattered cicadas. Nothing flickered at the laurel wall. Hours later, he trudged back down, adrenaline wasted. That evening, the thru-hiker's girlfriend phoned dispatch. Her partner never returned to the trailhead. When officers traced phone location history, it vanished at the same coordinate cluster as the others. Theo's supervisor swore, slammed a file cabinet, and raised the specter of closing the entire ridge. "We can't guard a place that's not there," she said. Sleep fled altogether. Theo unrolled the preserve's master blueprint on his kitchen table and aligned his sketchbook pages beside it. Using transparent film and pushpins, he overlaid the child spur onto GP-accurate contour lines. They matched within meters. A colleague might call it coincidence. Theo felt destiny's hand on his shoulder. At 3 a.m., thunder muttered on the horizon. He packed 2 days' supplies, threw on his uniform, and scribbled a note. "Surveying ridge sector at dawn. Possible new hazard. TM." He stepped onto the ridge trail as sunrise painted the fog blood oranges. Alone. The official map said 2 miles maintained path lay ahead, ending at the fire tower. After that, nothing but ravines. Yet, Theo's childhood scribbles suggested a hidden corridor branching before the tower. He slowed at the suspected junction. The laurel looked ordinary wax leaves, spiderweb threads. Then, as light angled just so, shadows ranged themselves like negative space, revealing a faint cleft between stems no wider than a shoulder. His breath caught. He reached forward. Leaves parted willingly, bouncing back as he slipped through. The world muffled. Birdsong faded, replaced by a hush of distant water, though no creek ran on this ridge. Underfoot, the earth depressed into a trough, the ghost of boot prints long eroded. Someone, perhaps many, had walked here. Yet soil sprang back behind him, erasing any sign. He left survey tape on branches every 20 paces, but somehow after turning once to scan the ground, the previous strip vanished, swallowed by green. Theo forced calm. He marked his GPS. No signal. Compasses wobbled. Only the sketchbook, tucked in his pack, felt like a lifeline. Half a mile in, the vegetation changed. Pale, translucent ferns sprouted beneath spruce that bore no cones. The air smelled faintly of petrichor and wintergreen, though July broiled outside. Theo's ranger training whispered about microclimates, but instinct said this was otherworld. He continued until the path opened onto a knoll. There stood a wooden archway, weather-beaten yet sturdy, carved with symbols he recognized, crude versions of glyphs he doodled as a child when imagining terrestrial constellations. The arch framed mist, so dense it looked solid, swirling like cream and coffee. Pinned to the arch by a rusty nail hung a ranger badge glinting dully. Theo's heart sprinted. He approached, wiped grime. Badge. 47 assigned to Thomas Agavilla, a ranger who'd gone missing 54 years earlier in a neighboring park. Below it, an Appalachian Trail tag, a vintage camera strap, a friendship bracelet, trophies, offerings, gravestones, a soft footfall behind him. Theo spun, hand to sidearm. No one, yet the ferns bent as if brushed. Cold crept up his spine. He was trespassing upon something that harvested wanderers, then curated their totems. Whatever lay past the mist, he wanted no part. But then the notebook in his pack throbbed, not physically, but with a magnetic pull. Scenes he had sketched at 9 and 10 and 11 flickered in his mind's projector. Boy, though walking under that arch, smiling, a welcoming glow past the fog. Had the trail called children through imagination first, grooming them for adulthood surrender? He removed the sketchbook, flipped pages until the final drawing, a door of light beyond the arch, met his eyes. Younger Theo had added new details each year. First birds, then mountains, then stick figure family waiting. A penciled note read, "They're there." He pressed his finger atop the scribble. The graphite felt warm. Voices drifted from the mist mother's lullaby. Father's laugh, long gone since the car crash when Theo was 12. Loneliness, like a deep lake, invited him to dive. He stepped toward the arch. The bracelet on the beam twitched, and within the mist, an outline formed. The thru-hiker, eyes vacant, reaching. Theo halted. The figure mouthed silently. The voice in Theo's head whispered, "Help!" Another outline emerged, the father from months prior, clutching thin air where a child's hand should be. Faces gaunt, color leached. Theo saw they were not welcomed guests. They were trapped postcards, half-developed. The forest exhaled, branches swaying though no wind existed. Theo understood. The trail lured with nostalgia, offering reunion, but delivered stasis souls, pinned like butterflies, memories siphoned. He backed away. The outlines imitated his movement, silently pleading. Could they be freed? Theo scoured the arch, tracing symbols. Several matched Cherokee syllabary he'd studied during cultural training. One phrase repeated, "Road of Echoes." Another glyph, older, resembled a keyhole. Child Tho had drawn a stick figure inserting a key. Adult Tho had no key, unless the sketches themselves were. He tore a blank page from the back of the book, then using a charcoal pencil, copied the keyhole glyph, and beneath it drew an arrow pointing out of the mist. He pressed the paper to the arch. Nothing. He closed his eyes, recalled being 8, drawing worlds with absolute certainty they'd come alive. He let that certainty flood him and opened his eyes. The charcoal arrow shimmered, detached from the page like smoke given spine, infused to the arch's grain. The mist quivered. The captured outlines flickered, as if static broadcast over them. Theo drew a second arrow, larger, darker. This one pulsed. Somewhere within the fog, a grown timber cracking, or perhaps the universe's hinge. A hand brushed his shoulder. He whirled, adrenaline spiking. A boy stood there, perhaps 10, wearing a camp t-shirt dusted with centuries of cobweb. His eyes were Theo's own. The boy raised a sketchbook identical to Theo's and mouthed, "Come." Memories stormed. He had drawn not only the trail, but dreamed of walking it, meeting himself grown tall, wearing a cool ranger hat. He had fed the myth. He had made the path. No, Theo whispered to his younger echo, out loud, firmer, not anymore. He crouched, palms on the path, and began to erase. With his forearm he scrubbed the dust, scuffing the trough, ripping fern roots, disrupting the narrative groove. Each handful of dirt cast aside was a line rubbed from the sketch. The mist convulsed. Younger Theo dropped his notebook. It flipped pages wildly, sketches vanishing, erased by some unseen eraser. The boy blurred, losing edges. He looked terrified. Theo paused, grief cracking his chest. To free the captives, he must also erase the boy, a shard of himself preserved all these years. He inhaled sap-scented air. "You are not a prisoner," he told the boy. "You're a possibility. Go be one." He opened the charcoal tin and sketched quickly on a blank fern frond, the boy stepping forward into sunlight. He pressed the frond to the boy's chest. It absorbed. The boy smiled, solidifying, then burst into motes that spiraled upward and away, out of sight. The art shuddered. The mist draped to the ground like a collapsing circus tent, revealing a corridor of dead trees stripped white. In their trunks were faces. Every missing hiker, every souvenir owner. Eyes closed as if dreaming. Ha! Theo's knees buckled. He rushed to the nearest trunk containing the through hiker. Pried at bark grain. Beneath, flesh, not wood, pulsed. Symbols again. He took a multi-tool, carved the arrow glyph into the trunk. It hissed, sap bleeding. He carved a second, bark split. A gap yawned. The through hiker tumbled out, skin frost pale but breathing. "Theo, here we go." Theo moved to the next tree. One by one he liberated them, arrows cutting prison seams, but each release weakened the corridor. Overhead, branches spiraled into vortexes, sucking light. A roar like a waterfall approached, the trail protesting disassembly. Theo knew he had minutes. Bodies lay strewn, semi-conscious. He herded them, drawing a chalk line on the earth, an exit gate. Those who crossed vanished with a pop. Reappearing, he prayed, on the main ridge. At last, only he remained. And the sketchbook. The corridor narrowed behind him, devouring its own edges. He stepped across the chalk. A suction yanked at his waist. One last plea. He shoved the sketchbook into the breach. Pages fluttered like frantic birds, then caught fire from within. Light searing, the pull ceased. He staggered forward, feeling terrain shift. Trail gravel under boots, cicadas returning. His return. Theo collapsed among laurel. Radios crackled overhead. Rescue teams shouted. A deputy nearly tripped on him, then screamed into his mic. One by one the missing hikers blinked into existence along the path, confused but alive. Stretchers and bafflement followed. In the hospital, investigators asked Theo to explain. He wanted to shrug, cite concussion. But he owed the truth to someone, himself. So he recounted everything except the boy. That memory he kept like a fragile seed. Supervisors took notes, consulted maps, found no hidden corridor, no arch. Only Theo's GPS had a burst of impossible coordinates, negative distances, imaginary numbers. Weeks passed. The preserve reopened. Theo attended therapy. Nightmares receded. When autumn tinged the ridges gold, he returned to the junction. No cleft, no hush, only ordinary leaves. He kneeled and whispered thanks anyway. Back at his apartment, a package awaited, no return address. Inside lay a brand new sketchbook, cover embossed with the ranger emblem. A note on first page read in a child's uneven scrawl, "Draw wisely." Theo set a coffee mug beside it, stared at the clean pages. Infinite trails began in blank space. He picked a pencil, hesitated, then turned to the second page and drew the ridge as it truly was. Solid, continuous, safe. At the margin he added small figures, rangers and hikers, walking together toward a sunrise. Below he printed in steady hand, "Home is here."